The drama has just escalated in the automotive world. What you're about to hear is the part of the Bugatti story almost nobody is talking about. Not the rap, not the speed run, not even the rebuild. The real controversy started the moment Bugatti went completely silent. And that decision may have changed everything. So the real question isn't whether he got a deal. He clearly did. The question is whether he got a deal or a trap dressed up as one. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Repossessed hypercars don't sit quietly waiting to be saved. They rot, seals dry out, rubber turns brittle, electronics forget how to talk to each other. And a 20-year-old Bugatti that's been ignored for years isn't a bargain, it's a countdown clock. Every system on this car had already started failing long before he ever turned the key. The gearbox wiring had cooked itself from years of heat exposure. The accumulators, the components that let this car's transmission actually function at all, were quietly dying inside the car. And buried underneath all of that was a mistake from a previous owner, a contaminated oil change that had already triggered 4 years of hell before this Veyron ever reached him. He didn't just buy a broken Bugatti, he bought someone else's unfinished nightmare, wrapped in carbon fiber. And then it got worse. Bugatti had already recalled a specific part, a fuel pump control module, found on exactly 72 cars in the entire world. Not aftermarket. Not cross-compatible with anything from the Volkswagen empire quietly running underneath this car's DNA. Proprietary, untouchable by anyone outside the factory. £4,500 and only a Bugatti dealer is legally allowed to install it. Read that again. He can fix almost anything on this car with his own 2 hands. But the second he hits something Bugatti decided to lock, every ounce of his skill becomes irrelevant. This is where the story splits into 2 completely different arguments. And here's the uncomfortable part. Both of them are right. Argument 1. He got played. He bought a car so deep in mechanical debt that no repossession discount could ever cover it. The gearbox failure alone should have been a warning sign, then the accumulators, then the contamination, then a manufacturer-locked module capable of ending the entire project regardless of how many million views it racks up. Add future accumulator replacements, coil packs, sensors, whatever else this neglected machine has quietly waiting in the wings, and that so-called bargain price starts evaporating fast. The car was cheap for a reason. Several reasons, actually. And Bugatti, the one company that could make any of this easier, has offered him almost nothing. No calls returned, no support extended, just silence and an invoice. Argument 2. This is exactly the story he set out to tell, whether he admits it or not. Because this isn't his first war with a manufacturer that treats repair like a privilege instead of a right. He already proved, on a Chiron Persport that wasn't even his own car, that Bugatti's so-called untouchable parts weren't untouchable at all. Half of what people assumed was exclusive turned out to be quietly shared across the Volkswagen Group. He exposed that publicly, on camera, in front of millions. But that Chiron belonged to someone else. This Veyron is his. His money, his risk, his unanswered calls piling up. Every triumph and every disaster now carries his name, not somebody else's. And when you actually look at what he's pulled off, it stops looking like a mistake and starts looking like a masterclass. A transmission stuck in park, fixed with a £3 fuse, on a car Bugatti would have charged a small fortune just to diagnose. A full service completed for just over £1,100, on a car where official channels would have billed him tens of thousands. He discovered the transmission pump wasn't some sacred Bugatti-only component. It was shared with an Audi convertible roof mechanism. He mapped out spark plugs, coil packs, filters, oils, sensors, all cross-referenced from ordinary Volkswagen Group parts bins most people never think to check. He built something that had never really existed publicly before. An independent survival guide for keeping a Bugatti Veyron alive without Bugatti's permission. Then he made it beautiful. A new wrap. New wheels, a restored front splitter, an engine bay that looks ready for a showroom instead of a repossession auction. And somehow, against everything stacked against this car, he got it into top speed mode. He drove it forward, he drove it backward. He gave the internet a series more gripping than half the scripted content sitting on television right now. That doesn't sound like a man being humiliated by his own purchase. That sounds like a man quietly exposing exactly how much of impossible is actually just inconvenient for the manufacturer. But here's the twist that changes everything, and it's the one thing even his skill can't out-engineer. The fuel pump module isn't a mechanical problem, it's a software cage. Same with the speed key system. Same with the tire pressure monitoring relearn, which, almost unbelievably, also demands dealer-level access before it will even function. None of these are broken parts in the traditional sense. They're perfectly good components, deliberately sealed behind digital locks that no socket set, no torque wrench, no amount of talent can pry open. He can rebuild an engine from scratch. He can outdiagnose Bugatti's own factory technicians. But he cannot outcode a manufacturer that built these walls specifically to keep people exactly like him on the outside. So did he make a mistake? No. But it's not a clean, comfortable no either. He made a calculated gamble, fully aware the car had scars, fully aware Bugatti wasn't going to make this easy, fully aware that sourcing parts would be a nightmare from day one. What he almost certainly didn't expect was just how many of this car's most important systems would come down to software, not steel. Financially, the math still favors him. The car remains worth considerably more than what he paid for it. His repair bills have been a fraction of Bugatti's official quotes, and the content this journey has produced has already outperformed what most manufacturers spend millions trying to manufacture in a marketing department. But the cost in time, stress, and software-shaped roadblocks has clearly gone far beyond anything he originally signed up for. Think about what that actually means. A man with the mechanical skill to solve problems that stump-trained Bugatti technicians brought to a complete standstill, not by rust, not by a cracked block, not by anything a wrench could ever fix, but by a line of code sitting inside a locked module. That's not a mechanical failure. That's a business decision made by a manufacturer that would rather you pay them £5,000 and wait weeks than fix your own car in an afternoon. And that's really what this story has become. Not just one man against one Veyron. One man against an entire philosophy of ownership. A philosophy where buying the car was never the hard part. Owning it on your own terms is. So here's where it stands. On one side, a valuable, revived hypercar, a story that's captivated an audience, and the pure satisfaction of resurrecting a machine everyone else had already written off. On the other, 20-year-old wiring, aging electronics, and a manufacturer whose silence speaks louder than any official statement they could ever release. Everything now hinges on one moment. If that fuel pump module gets installed, if this Veyron finally clears the speed threshold everyone's been waiting for, if the trip he originally planned finally happens, this stops being a cautionary tale entirely. It becomes one of the most remarkable independent hypercar revivals ever filmed, a blueprint for anyone who's ever been told a manufacturer's cars are too complicated to save. But if the car wins instead, if the software keeps winning where the mechanics never could lose, this becomes something else entirely. Proof that no matter how skilled you are, no matter how many fuses you replace or parts you cross-reference, some doors are locked by design, not by damage. So which is it? A brilliant, calculated risk that's already paying off in ways most people underestimated. Or the most expensive lesson in modern hypercar ownership, still being written in real time, one unanswered phone call at a time. Tell me what you think in the comments. And if you want to see how this ends, whether Bugatti finally picks up the phone, whether that module gets installed, whether this Veyron finally does what it was built to do, make sure you're subscribed, because this story is far from over.